dimension that we're very interested in is long context. So this is another figure. It's probably less known. It's one of the hidden gems in these papers. So instead of just pushing down the training loss by training on more tokens, it has some insights from another perspective. So as we can see, this is a comparison between transformers and LSTMs. So on the left-hand side, we can see that transformers achieve a lower training loss given the same number of parameters and the same number of training tokens as expected. And this is why transformers become the sort of the de facto architecture that people are using right now. But on the right-hand side, it's really interesting to see that transformers are actually better because it can improve through the whole context. So the x-axis is the token index in context, and if you increase the token index, you can see that the training loss of transformers actually dropped by a lot. If you just continually increase the context length, the loss just continuously drops down. But if you look at the curve of LSTM, it just is saturated after a certain number of tokens. It means that transformers have this better capability of capturing longer context, and this is what makes it better. Because if it go back to like 10 years ago, people used LSTM for tasks like machine translation, but it is not good for example, understanding entire code base or running a super long agent trajectory to solve for example, writing Linux kernels from scratch. It's not going to be accomplishable by LSTMs. So this is a very much needed capability in the era of agents because tasks are becoming harder and harder, and we need longer and longer context. So the research idea here is to develop a better architecture so that we can efficiently scale to a longer context length and at the same time achieve a lower per token loss at larger token indices. And this is the motivation for which we introduced this new architecture called Kimi linear. And it contains this new linear attention variant called Kimi delta attention, which improves the original gated delta rule, GDR, by improved recurrent memory. I will show the details later. And at the same time, we're going to mix linear attention layers with full attention layers using a 1-to-3 ratio so that you can balance between these long context capabilities and at the same time having a more efficient implementation. So this is some of the formulation. The basic idea is simple. If you look at linear attention, in the original formulation, the memory is going to be global. So there is a global single decay factor that is applied along the way. So it means that basically, if there are only two cases. In one case, you're going to forget basically everything, and you're not going to retain any information. And in the second case, you can choose to retain almost everything, but at the same time, you don't have the capability to leave out some of the unnecessary information in this long context. So we introduced this key idea of having a fine-grained decay factor as shown in this highlighted alpha term. So it's going to, instead of being a scalar, it's going to be a diagonal matrix, which controls the decay rate for each channel, so that we can have two possibilities. For some of the channels, we can decay really, really slow, meaning that we can retain this long context information across a very long range. And at the same time, for the other channels, we can sort of quickly forget the information from the past indices to refresh it and observe new information. And this is to increase the expressivity of this model. And of course, to leverage modern GPUs, we have to use this chunk-wise formulation so that we can parallelize the computation on modern GPUs. So the first equation here is the chunk-wise formulation of Kimi linear. But as you can see, this is going to bring massive infrastructure challenges because of this newly introduced alpha term. Because now it is a matrix instead of a scalar, it cannot easily be factored out. So to achieve a efficient implementation, we rewrite the entire equation into the bottom three equations. We introduce this matrix inversion operation, as well as introducing the cumulative decay factor, so that we can implement this entire thing in parallel without sacrificing any efficiency. And more importantly, this is not an approximation. It's an exact mathematically equivalent formulation, so that we can achieve much efficient implementation without sacrificing any loss in terms of performance. So it's going to be as efficient as previous linear attention variance, but at the same time, much more expressive. So these are some of the results that we obtained using a fair comparison. So on the left-hand side, we see the performance on two different types of tasks. So MMAU is a short context task. So for short context tasks, Kimi linear achieved a better performance compared to MLA and GDN. And at the same time, for longer context tasks, such as ruler, Kimi linear is also better than the other variants, while being much more efficient compared to MLA. And when we scale the context length further to, for example, 1 million tokens or even longer, it's going to be much more efficient compared to the baselines. And this is also the first architecture that can outperform full attention across the board, including short context tasks, long input tasks, and long output tasks. So these are two key dimensions that we are interested in. And the third dimension is the agent swarms. So here is a diagram to showcase how we design this agent swarm paradigm to solve some of the more complex tasks compared to single agent paradigms. So here we have an orchestrator, or you can call it a main agent. It's responsible for orchestrating tasks. It has different options. For example, we can spawn a group of subagents and assign new tasks to these subagents, or you can collect the results from the return of these subagents, and you can sort of performing this process in an iterative way, and at the end of the day, you can accomplish a more complex task compared to using one single agent. And it's analogous to human society. For example, if we build a company, we need different roles, and we need, for example, orchestrator, or maybe we need a CEO to decompose and assign the tasks to different roles, and then at the end of the day, the entire organization is going to have to move towards this same goal. And here, for example, in this case, we have maybe you have the AI researchers, you have the web developers, you have physics researchers, and they can study different topics. And at the end of the day, you just collect the results and spawn a group of fact checkers and web developers and file downloaders to assemble the results into a single report. And this is another perspective to look at this new paradigm. So the x-axis is the complexity of the task, and the y-axis is the execution time. And the complexity of the task is measured by the accuracy of a group of models on such tasks. So you can see with agent swarms, it's going to substantially reduce the execution time compared to single agents. It's going to be more effective. And this means that we can scale this agent swarm paradigm to, for example, if you run this agent swarms with 100 or maybe even 1,000 subagents, you can accomplish a complex task within a certain period of time that is tolerable for producing real economical value. And we can certainly scale it in different dimensions. We can scale the inputs. For example, we can download and read hundreds of sources, or even maybe thousands of dossiers in parallel. Or you can write a 100-page literature review in parallel. Or you can take actions at scale. You can perform data analysis for 10 different tasks. and also it is orchestration at scale. You have to learn to design subtasks and aggregate the results. And technically, we define some new objective functions to guide the learning process of our agent swarm system. So there are 3 reward functions, reward objectives that are considered here compared to the conventional single agent RL learning. So the first term is what we call the instantiation reward. It incentivizes sub-agent instantiation to prevent this serial collapse phenomenon from happening. So basically, we don't want it to default to single agent execution. We want to encourage the parallel executions, especially when it's early stage in training. And of course, we can decay the weight for this instantiation reward term over training course, because when it learns parallel execution, we can reduce the weight. And the second term here is finished reward. And it is used because we observe one of the things in training that some of these subtasks are just created but never finished. So it's almost like it's going to hack the first term by just spawning a bunch of sub-agents, and the task might be too complex, or maybe the task just doesn't make sense. And here we use this finished reward to basically encourage that each of the subtasks should have a relatively high ratio of completion, instead of just spawning a bunch of pseudo tasks which needed to be meaningful. So this is the second term that we use, and of course we use the same decay strategy. We use a relatively high weight at the beginning of training, and we decay it to a relatively low weight at the end of training. And of course, the third term is the standard term. Is the outcome reward. It's going to measure whether the entire task is completed. And then we're going to add these 3 terms in our reinforcement learning system. And of course, we have to build the entire infrastructure, because right now you need to support the parallel execution, and then you need to support different reward functions, and to maximize the efficiency of the entire agent swarm IO system. So here are 3 different things that we have tried scaling. The million clip optimizer improves token efficiency, and Kimi delta attention in the Kimi linear architecture improves long context. And we also have the agent swarms paradigm to further create a new dimension of scaling. And all of this put together, we created Kimi K2.5, a new model that we just released over 1 month ago. Here's a short video to demonstrate some of its capabilities.